everybody, my name's Jamie. Welcome back to another season of Major League Baseball. Now that the 2023 season is officially underway, let's talk about some rule changes and some other new things that are happening. Today's teacher is obviously The Legend of Zelda. Please enjoy. I'm going to start off by reading you this quote from a recent New York Times article. It quotes here Kansas City infielder Matt Duffy. I think this is really telling. A lot of people think our job as an industry is to win games. No, our job is to entertain first. If the product as a whole is not entertaining, people aren't going to come. When a ground ball is smoked 110 miles an hour and everybody goes, ooh, as it goes through the infield, and then there's a guy standing right there that they didn't see, and it's just another out. That's not entertaining. It's like, sorry pitchers, but fans want to see base runners. They want to see first to third. They want to see triples. They want to see home runs. They don't want to see strikeouts and nobody on base and 350 pitches thrown in a game. I mean, he's not wrong. So obviously a lot of people think baseball is due for a little tune-up. And a lot of people think that everything is fine how it is. And other people think that we actually need to step back and actually go back to the past in a sense by restoring the pitcher hitting. For the longest time, National League Baseball was the only place where there was no DH. It was the only professional league on earth where the pitchers hit. Even in the minor league affiliates of National League teams, the pitchers did not hit. And this makes sense because pitching is such a valuable resource. You don't want your pitchers getting hurt hitting. Chien-Ming Wang comes to mind. Here's the image the New York Times went with. It's an image of 3 Minnesota Twins fielders, 3 guys with their feet, essentially their toes on the grass between first and second. There's probably a 4th person like right off the infield on the grass. And I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of the overshift. It's just not entertaining. I feel the same way about watching the pitchers hit in the National League. I can remember just watching a lot of National League ball in the past. Bases loaded, 2 outs, the pitcher comes up, he strikes out on 3 pitches. Because starting pitchers, what do they get? 2 or 3 at bats once a week? That's how are you supposed to compete? Here are the big changes. The bases are bigger. The pitchers have to contend with the pitch clock and no longer have unlimited pickoff moves to first base. They can only take their foot off the rubber twice per an at-bat. The overshift is gone. What does that mean? That means that at the time of the pitch being thrown, there have to be 2 infielders on either side of second base, and you cannot be on the outfield grass. You have to have your feet in the dirt on the infield. This is being done obviously to increase batting average and just hitting in general. The new pitch clock is just an incentive to speed up the game. The idea is that the pitchers can't step off the rummer an infinite number of times or throw over to first an infinite number of times. I think they can only step off the rubber twice during an at-bat, and I think you can only throw over to first twice as well. I'm not positive, don't hold me to that. The bases are going to be bigger this year. That just means that both infielder and runner will have more opportunities to reach out to the base. But theoretically, I think this will aid offense more. So they've also made changes to who can pitch, meaning that we're no longer going to see position players thrown onto the mound quite as liberally as we've seen in the last few years. The previous rule allowed them to use a position player when they were up, when the respective team was up or down by 6 or more runs. And I guess they're going to change it to the team that's ahead would have to be ahead by at least 10 runs, and the team that's behind would have to be behind by at least 8 runs. So let's take these one at a time. Position players pitching, to me, I don't know. They say it makes a big impact on the league and the game and metrics and so forth. I don't know. I didn't notice. Is it happening more than it used to? Probably, but maybe that's because, I don't know. I think pitching injuries are kind of up just like over time. Not necessarily like year by year, but just like in this era more than previous eras. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of thoughts about the position players pitching. I don't love it, but generally it just happens in games where it doesn't matter. So it's just kind of a goofy, fun thing. The idea of having bigger bases is that apparently it's going to keep everybody safer. I'm all for safety. I don't see how it's going to be a huge change. Maybe it will make a big difference in numbers. Maybe there'll be more stolen bases. I don't know. But my understanding is that it's focused on reducing injuries, and I'm all for that. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. I don't. So I think the pickoffs and stepping off the rubber, I think it's all part of the same rule. I think it's just a general rule that the pitcher can only disengage from the rubber twice per at bat. This means that the pitcher cannot make unlimited throws to pick off a runner on first, for example. Now, whether they're doing this to legitimately pick off the runner on first, or they're trying to freeze the hitter at the plate, or if they're just trying to buy time for their team's reliever to come in and replace them, whatever it may be, it's not a lot of fun to watch somebody throw 5 pickoffs in a row when you can tell that they're probably not going to pick them off. So this one doesn't seem like that big a deal to me, but I'm going to need to see how the 2 engagement rules plays out over the course of a season before I can really wrap my head around it. Now we come down to it, the overshift, and for me, this is the big one, just reducing the shift. I'm in favor of this. Being a American League East baseball fan, the Tampa Bay Rays have been overshifting for like 20 years, and just generally it's not fun to watch, and I've heard a lot of people criticize hitters for not learning to hit the other way. And I guess it must be really hard because, again, this has been going on for like 20 years and it just doesn't seem to be happening. And for me, like, it's just not something I want to watch. I don't want to watch 4 guys essentially on the infield between first and second and, whoever it is, your famous left-handed hitter, again, as Matt Duffy said, smoke 110-mile-an-hour ground ball and it just gets gobbled up by one of the 4 or 5 infielders. You got 2 guys in like mid right field. It's just, I don't know, for me it's just not fun. And yeah, like, all things being equal, you would think the hitters would learn to spray the ball around, but it's not happening. And we've got a lot of data at this point. So for me, like, this, I'm all for. I'm all in on this one. I do want to point out the minor little change in replay. Now there's not the guy who just comes out from under the stadium carrying the big cooler, boombox, duffel bag, whatever it is, and then umpires have to saunter over and put on the headsets. Now they just seem to have a little earpiece and they just touch a little thing on their belt and they talk to whoever they got to talk to in the replay room in New York or whatever, and then it just seems to go much faster, and I think that's a great change. I like it very much. However, I would be willing to sacrifice replay in general, and for me, this is the one big change I do look forward to in Major League Baseball is the computer calling balls and strikes. Now, for me, what really sold me on this was an episode of Real Sports. 6 years ago, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel aired a segment called Man vs. Machine, where they studied how well Major League Baseball umpires execute calling balls and strikes just around the edges of the strike zone, and the results were staggering. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, the episode is no longer available, but if anybody can dig it out of somewhere, I don't know where the old Real Sport episodes go to die, but if somebody can just resurrect this episode for us, the results are completely and totally staggering. They will blow your mind, and if you've ever thought that you could never be convinced that automating the strike zone was something you'd be in favor of, this is the thing that will change your mind. It's just completely and totally baffling. And the technology exists. It's existed for years. We can just turn it on and just use it. And we're still going to need umpires. We're always going to need umpires to manage the game, to keep the players from killing each other, and consulting with the ground crew and calling people out at bases. I'm all for that. I'm not saying I don't want any umpires. I'm not saying I want to replace all of the umpires with computers. It's literally just this one thing. I would like the balls and strikes to be called by the computer. Then they will be right. There'll be no arguments, and we can get rid of all replay. I mean, I think this is enough automation, and I think if we can accept using technology to look at replays, I don't see why we can't just get rid of that, which in my view takes too long, and just use this, which is instantaneous. Well, we're just barely into this new 2023 season, so we've got a long way to go, and I think we'll just have to see how all these rule changes bear out over the course of 162 game season. It's a long way to go, and we're just getting started. So who knows what'll happen between now and then. Maybe we'll see the pitch clock rules get loosened up a little bit in the postseason. That would make sense. Maybe they'll make it a little bit longer, or who knows? Who knows what'll happen between now and then? You know, for the postseason, they go back to the old bases. Probably not, but it's a long season. And I'll see you at the ballpark. It's terrible. This is entertainment. This is entertainment, folks. You think I'll be making more of these baseball videos? I'm sure this is gonna get like 10 views.